Begin systems check.
Hello and welcome to a video from sixaxis.com. I am Chris and talking to me today is Teflon. Say hello, Tef.
Hello.
We are going to talk about Valkyrie today, which is the VR like flight simmy type thing in the Eve universe. You had quite a lot of time with this in VR. How did you find spending that long in VR?
Yeah, it was about an hour maybe. There were quite a few rounds of multiplayer.
That's pretty lengthy.
It's a good length. I mean, it's the longest that I've spent in VR so far. And this was with like the final version of Oculus. Maybe like a few things need to be tweaked on it before it goes into mass production, but this is basically the final version of Oculus. And the headset's quite nice. There's a nice bit of give to the straps when you try and put it on your head. So they're kind of like molded plastic, but then they stretch a little bit, and so it's quite nice putting it on. But overall, like, I found it really quite intense, and like after a couple of matches, and this is partly down to the game and the style of game it is, and also down to not having done VR for this amount of time before, I did actually feel the need to take the headset off for a little while and just take little breaks between each round.
Which is... It's kind of a positive and a negative, you know? Like, it's good that, like, that's the experience that VR developers want you to have. But on the other hand, like, I don't know if that's going to be for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just going to be down to, from one person to another. It's just like some people are going to be more susceptible to, like, motion sickness.
Absolutely.
Because you're not feeling the motion on your body. And stuff like that. So I think for me, maybe like the next time I try it out properly, I'll be able to sit down and be like a full hour before I feel the need to take it off. Or it depends on the different game, and if there's no like breaks between a match or something like that, then maybe that'll be something to keep me engaged in the world and make me not think about that this thing is a little bit hot on my face and all this. So yeah.
Yeah, I do find that you get a little bit sweaty after a while with the headset, I do find. As we were talking about earlier, it's quite an obvious but a very cool concept for VR. Does it live up to that, like, the possibility, I guess?
Yeah, I'd say that it pretty much does. Like, in terms of the actual style, they've absolutely nailed it. You've got... Like, the opening launch sequence is just the epitome of cool, because it just borrows so much from Battlestar Galactica. You've got, like, the long launch tube, and you've got, the computer doing, like, a checklist of all the things that need to come online and stuff like that, and then you just hurtle along this corridor, and you're just out in the emptiness of space. It's very, very cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and also what was good was that because there was... this is much closer to being the final version of the game, so there's different modes and stuff. I could get a much better feel of how the ships handle, and they are quite a nice blend between like turning like you're an aeroplane. It's a nice blend between that and like the realities of Newtonian physics in space. So you can, to a limited degree, because you've always got the thrust from behind, but to a limited degree you can sort of pivot on the spot and shoot and like get lots of really sharp turns. Without having to like think about the pitch and yaw of the ship, and like it takes a bit of getting used to, but it's very easy to pick it up and just start trying to follow the target on the screen, just like with the analog stick, so you're moving the actual ship, but also with your head.
Oh right.
Because what they've done is quite clever. They've made it so it's look to lock for the missiles, and so that sort of encourages you to move your head around, look around you in the world, sometimes even look behind you. And it's just much more natural and fluid than if you've got just this tiny little window which is your TV to look into this world.
I really like the look to lock stuff, as you say. That is a very smart, intuitive system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is. I was talking to Andrew Willan. I interviewed him. That's on TSA as of last night, and yeah, he was talking about how this is one of the first things that they came up with to get people to like really not interact with the world, but feel like they're in the world and actually make good use of the VR headset. So it's a very clever idea.
Because I was talking to someone about this the other day, in fact, about the because some of the interaction systems are now the gaze based, but it's not as simple, not as intuitive as Look to Lock is, and I read it almost feels like the original Kinect stuff where you kind of have to hold your hand somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And some of the gaze-based stuff seems like that, which always feels really counterintuitive. But this is great because it fits in the scenario.
It does fit the scenario. There is an element of auto-aim as well, so it does snap to the target a little bit.
Oh, okay. That's
helps,
reasonable, though.
Yeah, that helps grease the wheel, so you don't have to be absolutely precise, because being absolutely precise is still quite tricky, even if it's pointing with your head.
Yeah, I like... It's going to be a few years before people get that down. Like, once you get used to it, and perhaps if they bring in full-on iris tracking, then you'll start to get that. But, yeah, in the first iteration, that's too difficult for people. So what's in the game, but what's there in terms of modes, etc.?
So there's mainly multiplayer. Like, it's a multiplayer focused game, and so that's going to instantly bring to mind like Star Wars Battlefront and Rainbow Six Siege, where there wasn't much to do in the single when you're on your own. They've got 2 main game modes at the moment, which are Team Deathmatch, which is the obvious dogfighting scenario, but also Control. So you've got 3 control points, and you need to capture them and hold them. But instead of your ship having to be within this radius, you drop a little drone.
Oh, okay. That's nice, actually, yeah.
It's a clever idea, because there's just this perpetual motion of being in the spaceship, so it's a really good way around that. In addition to the multiplayer, though, there are a couple of PvE missions. They've got the standard horde mode on each of the maps, which is called survival, but you will get more variety out of the recall missions, and this is the one where they had Katie Sackhoff. She was signed up to do some voice acting and be one of the characters in the game, and obviously she is Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica, so that's a mission where you are in the convoy, and this is one of the most shown things from Valkyrie over the last year. And that sort of gave the hint that maybe there was going to be a big campaign mode, but there isn't. It's just these little missions which could be a few minutes long, or it could be a bit bigger and more ambitious. The only one that they've shown is this one with the convoy. But they are going to do some different things with this, so like have that as an introduction with a little bits of story and lore in there for like what is going on in the universe, and like they'll use those to help teach you how to play Control, for example. I actually found it a bit disappointing to hear that there wasn't really going to be a proper campaign.
It is a little bit disappointing. You kind of want something, right? Particularly when they've got that voice acting in.
Yeah, and I think there was just a bit of miscommunication. Like, they haven't, well, to the best of my knowledge, like, I hadn't fully understood that.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be an awful lot more people who don't understand that there isn't this big, grand, sweeping campaign.
Yeah, well, even because a lot of the early Oculus games kind of feel like a couple of notches beyond tech demos, not in an insulting way, but you know what I mean, like it's still exploring the technology in that.
Yeah, no, the developers are still very much finding their feet.
Yes. But when you talk about that you've got voice acting in, and particularly making a big deal about it, like, you kind of expect there to be some story, you kind of expect it to be a campaign, even if it's a short 5 to 10 level thing, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to have these really cool missions, and I think they're going to be able to explore more stories over time as well, because they are going to be adding more stuff. And like, in terms of like how much actual game there's the comparisons with Rainbow Six and Battlefront, but you know, it is the first step with a VR game, and so it is a new platform, and so it's not going to be necessarily as completely and fully featured as something 3 or 4 years down the line, but it is definitely very cool. I'd say it's definitely much more than the tech demo, which it has been for such a long time, and it's sort of the first step into turning into like this big and fully featured, like something that's tangibly real and an actual game.
Well, we'll leave it there in our Valkyrie talk. You said you've got an interview going up as well on the sixaxis.com.
Yep, that's already live. Written impressions are already live as well.
Okay, so alongside those, you can go over to the sixaxis.com. There will be a link in the description below to those articles. But thank you for talking, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you in the next life.